Lorraine hadn't opened the front door for anyone in weeks. The narrow gravel path leading to her cottage had begun to collect autumn leaves, untouched and unbothered. The Vermont trees outside were ablaze with orange and red, like a silent fire wrapping her home in warmth she could no longer feel. The cottage, once built with the calloused hands of her late husband William, stood like a monument to all that was and could never be again. Lorraine was 71. Her days were measured in mugs of tea and sunbeams falling across her living room rug. She kept William's sweater draped across the chair, though it had long since lost his scent. Life had slowed into silence, and she had learned to live in that stillness, or at least pretend it was living, until the knock came. 3 gentle raps on the old wood door. She didn't expect visitors. No deliveries. No neighbors. No one. Lorraine hesitated by the kitchen counter, her hand gripping the edge, breath stilled. The last time someone knocked unannounced was years ago, and it had been news she didn't want. But something in her stirred. She didn't know what, but it nudged her forward. Her hand turned the knob, and the hinges groaned open. He stood there, drenched from the afternoon rain, a soft canvas bag slung over his shoulder, cheeks flushed with the chill. He was young, not a stranger exactly. A face she had seen in the local bookstore, behind the counter, sorting poetry with careful hands. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice sheepish. "I didn't mean to come unannounced. He held up a familiar leather-bound book. "You left this last week." Lorraine blinked. The book. She had tucked it between the gardening section while browsing and forgot about it entirely. Simple gesture. Forgotten act. And yet here he was. She opened the door wider. "Come in." That was all she said. But something shifted the moment those words left her lips. He stepped in, brushing droplets from his shoulders, eyes wide as they took in the wooden beams, the faded wallpaper, the collection of teacups that lined the shelves. Lorraine wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders. "I didn't think anyone would notice," she murmured. "I noticed," he replied. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, a fresh pot of Earl Grey between them, steam curling like a whisper in the air. Lorraine spoke about William, about the way he whistled through his teeth when he worked on the porch, about how the walls still echoed his footsteps in the morning. The young man, his name was Julian, listened not with pity but with quiet reverence. He didn't stay long. The storm passed, and with it, his reason to linger. But before he left, he turned at the door and said, "You should visit the bookstore again. We host poetry readings every Friday. You'd like it." Lorraine smiled, something slow and unfamiliar tugging at her lips. "Maybe I will." And she did. That Friday and the one after. She sat among the young and the restless, in her soft cardigan and worn shoes, listening to words that poured like honey and stung like truth. She read once, too, an old poem William had scribbled in the margins of a gardening manual. The room had gone still. Something had changed in her. She began to walk again, not just down to the post office, but to the art supply store. She bought paint. She brought out her old canvases. Her hands trembled at first, but the colors came back to her fingers like they'd been waiting. Her brush remembered. Lorraine started painting faces. The ones she knew. The ones she lost. The ones she saw in the mirror. Julian sometimes stopped by the cottage. Never announced. Always welcomed. They spoke of books, of seasons, of silence. Not once did he mention her age. Not once did she feel small. The loneliness that had once draped itself over her shoulders began to unravel. Lorraine was 71. And she had just begun again.